Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to our latest webcast that we're bringing you from Travel Weekly. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Mark Duguid, who is, of course, the managing director at Kuoni. We know really well because he's been at Kuoni before and 6 years or so at Carrier, but back now at the helm. So, Mark, how are you doing 6 months into this new role?
I'm good, thanks. Thank you so much, Lucy, for the opportunity to speak. I'm not going to lie, it's been a whirlwind 6 months. I was off to a head start. I know the organization, I know the people, have established relationships, have an understanding and passion for the brand. But I'm not going to lie, coming back into an organization of this scale, having been in the specialist businesses, in the luxury segment, it did take a little adjustment to get used to again.
Oh, well, that's why we've left it a few months to talk to you. Because of course a little bit quiet, understandably at first, but now we've had a succession of releases coming through from you and making some changes, which we would expect. And not least is your team. And I think that's important because that's going to drive, I guess, your strategy. So we heard about sort of splitting up previous roles. You've got a new retail director, new head of trade partnerships. So why don't you talk us through what you've done? And also, of course, there's some names there that we will be quite excited about, I think.
Yes, names hot off the press. So I guess that's just it. It might look to an external observer that I've been really quiet and not doing much, but trust me, a lot of work was on behind the scenes to get to this point. And I feel like after 6 months, you know what, I had a 2-week holiday in Greece at the end of June, and it was the perfect way to bookend that period. And now I feel like I'm out of the closet, ready to start hitting the road again. So I guess my primary focus in the first 6 months was establishing the team. So the right team to take the new business strategy forward. And as you say, there have been a number of announcements. So 2 were announced previously. And obviously today, there's the announcement of our last 2 new hires. So that's quite an injection of new talent into the leadership team. That's sort of 4 external candidates into the team.
Yeah. And of course, they're replacing people that had been in the business for some time. So you've got to get it right because I guess you want some continuity, but equally you've brought people in who are outside of travel as well as some very well-known people. So, I mean, tell us about that strategy.
So that's just it. Kuoni is a business that has excellent employee retention. And look at me, I'm someone that came up through the ranks at Kuoni. Yeah. But I think sometimes that means that you don't always get that external perspective. So I was clear that this was a unique opportunity to go out to market and really inject some fresh thinking and fresh ideas into the leadership team at Kuoni. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what I did. And you said it's sort of a complex or painstaking process. The recruiter I worked with would absolutely validate that. I was very clear about who I was looking for, both in terms of sort of skills and expertise, but cultural fit is incredibly important. I mean, Lucy, you know the sort of brand Kuoni and the culture that we have here. So bringing people in that would, slot easily into that culture and enhance it rather than, anything sort of rub up their own way was critical.
Very important. All right. Well, look, let's start with the one because obviously our audience are agents. So you've got a role of head of trade partnerships, which is going to affect them. So tell us about that one first, and then we'll go through all of them and why you've structured it in the way you have.
So I'm sure many people will know Sarah. So Sarah Weetman. It feels great to be able to say it out loud because for so long it's been under wraps. Because of course the comms and her existing employer and so on. But many of you will know Sarah Weetman. To say she is sort of a bundle of energy would be an understatement. So just her personality and approach just chimed with me immediately. So I know for sure she's exactly the right person to take our trade strategy forward. This is a leadership team position for trade, which we haven't had before. Right. So I think you can take from that, it's a statement of intent about our commitment to the trade.
So previously you just had one salesperson, but you've now split it into someone looking after trade specifically, and that's on your leadership team.
Trade sat within a wider sales role at leadership team level. So yes, this is the first time we've had a dedicated trade position. I mean, you know, in my time at Carrier, the value I sort of place in the trade, and it's a very deliberate move to appoint this position at leadership team level.
And would you say then that previously at Kuoni that maybe because agents were very important for a long time, would you say that had slightly waned a bit, but now you want to put it right back in focus?
What I would say is, coming out of COVID, obviously cuts were made in operators throughout the industry. I think it would be fair to say that Kuoni has struggled to rebuild in the trade specifically post-COVID.
Yeah.
So there are two guys working in trade roles for Kuoni right now. They are absolute superstars. So Matt Soul and Danny Kelly, if anyone is interested in working with us, reach out directly to them. But what we have been lacking is that sort of senior strategic figurehead.
Okay.
And that's why I'm delighted that Sarah is going to join us in that capacity.
Oh, she's so well known and so well liked, and I can see it absolutely, you know, when you say bubbly and the energy she has. But what are you tasking her with then, Mark? When you say it says something that you've put her on the leadership team and that you want to rebuild this trade business, what will be her, you know, initial remit? I know she doesn't join till September, so what have you told her to do when she hits, you know, when she starts?
Well, jumping ahead to what that first one-to-one will look like in September, it really will be a root and branch review of what we do with the trade. I think COVID was a real sort of leveler and unique opportunity to not just revert back to old practices. And I can see several brands, several suppliers taking quite a fresh, innovative approach. So I don't really know what the outcome will be, but it's that fresh perspective that I talked about. I'm looking for her to come in between us, we work on an innovative, engaging, appealing sort of trade strategy.
Brilliant. Okay. All right. Well, we will look out for that, and with much anticipation. I'm sure she will do a cracking job. But what this means is you've split out retail, and you've now got a head of retail. You announced that last week. This is Donna Hines that's joining you to look after your retail network. So,
and that will be a name not known to you.
Of course, we were maybe surprised, but I've obviously looked her up. She's Body Shop, and what's really intrigues me that she used to look after 250 stores in Body Shop, another 150 within pharmacies in Ireland. I mean, this huge network. And with all respect, she's coming to join a network of 26 stores, some of which are, you know, high street, but some of which are within stores, as we know. So you must have done a good job, you know, convincing her that this was maybe a growth opportunity, or what is she coming in to look after?
Well, I think you're right. It's a question I had for her during the interview process. Is there going to be enough challenge for you here? What Donna was looking for, without going into sort of her needs and wants in the whole interview process, she was looking for an organization where the values really matched her values.
Okay.
And when you think about the Body Shop, it's a real values-driven organization. So there was that, like an organization that really cares. It's not just about the fast buck, is looking to make a difference. And secondly, it was about a focus on people. She is an out-and-out people person. And of course, heading up our retail estate is all about the people in the retail stores. And then thirdly, it was sort of a fresh challenge she was looking for. So while we might be smaller, travel's a new field for her. So that brings in a whole set of new challenges. And, you know, we are an appealing brand. So don't sell us too short, Lucy.
No, I'm not. Oh my God, I'm not at all. I'm just saying the scale is pretty different. That's all.
It's exactly that. It's exactly that. But well, she put forward a convincing argument. So, and what that, I mean, I see that as a huge coup for us. So for someone to come in with such vast experience for such a respected brand. Now, I did conduct two searches here. I had a travel industry search going at the same time as the non-travel industry one. I had very credible candidates from the industry and candidates that made it into the final selection, so into the final three. So I would have happily appointed any of those travel candidates, but ultimately Donna came in at the last moment. And you know, when you've got a candidate that just blows you away, and I think, I mean, there's her personality and her people focus and the fact the values match so much, but ultimately, it's this fresh perspective that she's going to bring.
Yeah.
We know that retailing is in a huge state of flux. And within the travel industry, I mean, look at the explosion of home working and the complete change that we're seeing to travel retailing.
Yeah.
That's true of retailing in general. I mean, post-COVID, look at department stores, the high street, it's rapidly evolving. I think with Donna, we've got someone here now within the team who has a really strong grasp on that and can ensure that we stay ahead, reinvent ourselves as needed, to refresh our retail proposition as we go along.
And when you talk about reinventing yourselves, because obviously you know, primarily you were there to sell Kuoni holidays, your retail stores. That has changed over time. In fact, I was talking to someone the other day that's saying that you're now selling if only in your stores, which are what I would see as one of your competitors. So that surprised me. So are you moving towards being a more full service retailer rather than, you know, first and foremost Kuoni and then a bit of other stuff? Because you used to do a bit of other stuff that you couldn't get elsewhere, but now it seems like you're doing, you know, has that strategy changed on retail?
I'd say it's still that, to be honest. So first and foremost, it is about Kuoni sales and the specialist brands we have within the Dirtaristic group.
So,
But we have increased the access to third-party operators through our Advantage membership. And it really is, it's customer driven. It's to complement the in-house range when the customer needs a holiday out of the.
Okay, all right. And then, you know, I know we need to give Donna time to work out what she wants to do, but you obviously see quite a future in retail. You talked there about the explosion in home working and the flux, huge change on the high street, but you obviously feel there is a future in retailing. I know some of yours are in John Lewis and in superstores as well as on the high street, but do you see growth from this part of the business?
The business strategy is not to grow the number of stores. We obviously closed a number during COVID. The size feels about right. I see it more as future-proofing. So Donna's role will be to come in, assess the retail landscape, ensure our proposition is absolutely on point. From that point, we can look about the future size and shape of retail. But from where I sit right now, retail is a profitable division of this company. We offer excellent service there. So yes, we're absolutely committed to retail. And
maybe you won't say this, but I was wondering how much of your distribution comes from your own stores as opposed to other retailers. Is that, you know, is that stayed pretty constant? Is it obviously important to you?
I'd say it's increased as a result of the COVID changes I talked about. But to be honest, I think that's because we're not maximizing the opportunities in other retailers in the trade.
Okay, so both Sarah and Donna have got big jobs to do, haven't they, when they come into their new role? All right, so let's talk about the other two appointments that you have made. Another one who's coming to join the industry from externally is forgive me, you've got Caroline Child, but she's been at TUI.
Yes.
And she came directly from Travelopia.
Travelopia, yes.
Yeah.
So obviously, Lucy, you personally know Dean Harvey. So Dean left at the back end of last year, and Caroline was actually one of the first hires I made. But we've had an extended sort of period of gardening leave. She finally joins us next month. Her experience is a great fit. Travelopia, previously with Crystal and those TUI brands. She has had a stint at John Lewis. She's been in consultancy. And when I asked her how she would describe herself as a marketeer, she said, first and foremost, a brand marketeer. Now, we all know the importance of the Kuoni brand to the Kuoni organization, the heritage that comes with that. And anyone who followed me at Carrier will know just how powerful I view brand and the focus I put on the positioning of Carrier. So I cannot wait to be working with Caroline on the positioning of the Kuoni brand.
As you mentioned there, the heritage, the legacy, the sort of respect that Kuoni has as a brand. So that's presumably just something that you need to continue to build on, because it's something that not every operator would have such a strong brand, I guess.
You're right, it's gold dust. And I met Caroline last week and we were talking about the challenges, and she asked me about service, and I said, our NPS is through the roof, our service proposition is excellent. And so her reaction was, wow, to come into an organization where that's nailed, the marketing of it then becomes much easier.
Yeah. So in that respect, will we just see more building on the heritage and the sort of the quality rather than any kind of different direction? Are you trying to go after totally new customers, or are you just going to try and solidify what you've done for many years very well?
Yeah. Don't expect us to go off on a completely new tangent. It will be building on the success and heritage of the Kuoni brand. I guess what I would say is, I think of recent years, we've become synonymous with special occasions.
Yeah.
Whilst special occasions is a lovely space to be in, I think that's probably quite limiting. So I think we need to perhaps broaden our appeal and become more relevant to more people.
Yeah.
And I'd say within, and this touches on the sort of final appointment, and then within sort of destinations in our portfolio, that special occasion slant has also led us down a path to Indian Ocean, luxury beach holidays. And that's not the heritage of the Kuoni brand. You know, we were we were known for a true worldwide heritage and excellence throughout the world. And I think that's territory we can reclaim.
Okay. Fighting talk. I like that, Mark. But I know what you mean. People go, oh, Kuoni synonymous with the Maldives, but there is so much more. And of course, you did launch short haul as well, which you hadn't been known for particularly, but that had been quite successful for you. I remember coming to one of your latest reports, and Italy had been really strong. So are you now going to try and become a sort of worldwide tour operator once again?
I think it's about becoming more relevant to more people. Now, obviously, Caroline needs to come in. We need to work through it together, because the brand can only be based on what we already have here and what we do well. But that's certainly my intended direction when Caroline joins.
And when you say new people, like, you know, obviously you had the couples doing weddings and honeymoons, you had sort of anniversaries, perhaps, but are we talking family? No, what markets are you trying to go in? What demographics are you sort of going to try and target? And also, are you going to keep this, well, the luxury focus, but not perhaps carrier luxury? But, you know, at one point, you know, you were very much known for a type of luxury, weren't you?
We were. I mean, I call it premium. I see us in that premium space. I think sometimes we're positioned too much in the luxury camp, and that works against us. There's real cachet to being perceived as great quality. But if that starts to chip away at perception of value, that becomes a space. And if you think about retailers, you know, your John Lewis, your M&S, and so on, I put us very much in that camp, where the range is really quite broad. It's known for luxury and excellent service, but it's not too niche.
Yeah, it's not, it's affordable ultimately. So you can, all right.
Accessible.
Yeah. And sorry, you just mentioned the other appointment. So let's come on to that, because we're working our way through them, and it's good. We're getting a strategy with it. So it's good.
So Marco joined us. Marco Rocha joined us. Now he joined in March. So he has, I keep on saying to him, you've had such a head start. He was available almost immediately. So he's had a full quarter in the business already. He's hit the ground running. So his background is Virgin Holidays. He was at the B2C brands of Donata, I think Netflights and Travel Bag. Scott Dunn was his most recent stint. So he's worked in the luxury space, also in the mainstream space, and has a very commercial background.
Yeah, so he's coming in, so he's commercial and product, isn't
Product
he?
and commercial director, yeah.
Okay. And what's his brief then? You know, I mean, you mentioned there about sort of trying to be known again for the whole world. So is he out sort of product side? Is he out sort of looking at contracting, and then commercial, obviously getting the right prices for all these things?
You've just nailed it. It's exactly that. It's exactly that. In areas of the world where perhaps we haven't adapted and refreshed our offering sufficiently, it is doing so. And then commercially, again, because we've been viewed perhaps a little bit as too premium and special occasions, it means that we're often viewed as quite punchy on price. So it's his role to ensure that we have a truly competitive offering out there.
Okay. So he's got to go and contract at such a good rate that he can allow you to slightly bring your prices down to be a little bit more, as you say, in line with other premium brands so that you're not overlooked.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. And then should we talk about Darren? I know he's been in the business for 15 years, but he's got a slightly different role, hasn't he?
Yeah, we should. So I feel like we're rattling through the full team here, but then I have three internal appointments, people in the team. We obviously know Rachel O'Reilly, Director of Communications, very well. Andy Peacock, who's the head of finance, and Darren is the other one. So previously we had a dedicated sales role. By altering the remit of the new retail director and the new head of trade partnerships, the call centers now report into Darren. So he was ops director and he's now my sales and ops director.
Yeah, so he's looking after, it says call centers and tailor-made teams. And so what's the reporting structure for people like Sarah and Donna then? Where do they report directly to you, or do they go into
me? So everyone we've run through reports to me, forms the leadership team. Brilliant. So basically his remit is expanded to look after the call centers. He's been in the organization some time now, 15 years. But prior to that, he ran big multi-site contact centers for TUI Group, and you know, the various sort of specialist brands within the group at the time.
Yeah. So you said there that you know the timing of this, you'd had your 6 months to sort yourself out. You had your Greece holiday. You come back all geared up now for this next phase. So you know, are we really going to see a new Kuoni, like a reborn Kuoni? And so, you know, obviously you in a new role, you'll want to make waves, won't you?
Yes. The best way to describe it is I want Kuoni to have that spring in its step back.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we will look out for that. But one of the things I do want to ask you about, because you touched on how Donna's a real people person, but that's your thing too, isn't it? You are all about culture within the business. And I know you probably had a great culture, but what are you going to bring in your sort of with you at the helm, because culture is so crucial to you, and it was at Carrier, and I know you're going to bring that into Kuoni.
It's interesting when I think about the strategy sessions that we have conducted as a leadership team. Culture, of course, figures prominently, but we're in such a strong place. And of course, I'm picking up the business from Derek, who, my God, there is a people person.
Yeah.
So really, the company culture is in an exceptional place. Engagement levels are high, loyalty, pride in the brand. So I don't see a significant job for me to do there. Of course, there are things that I want to change and things I want to tweak, but nothing that would sort of capture any headlines, to be honest. It's more just refining what we have and amplifying it moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioned Derek there. I mean, I wasn't going to, because he's been gone a little while now. If he's watching this, we still love you, Derek. We know you're doing bits and pieces in the industry, but they are big shoes to fill. You know, he led very prominently through COVID. You know, we spoke to him a lot. You know, he was very vociferous and great. You know, so how does that feel? I know you're 6 months in now, but it's quite big shoes to follow, isn't it?
It is, but obviously I have such a strong relationship with Derek. I worked closely with him for years. And when I was at Carrier, we were working alongside each other pretty closely. So I'd say moving into the MD of Kuoni role, it is not lost on me, the opportunity and the scale of the task. But I think given my career path to date, it feels like a logical step. Okay. It feels like a logical step. I definitely don't feel the shoes are too big right now.
Good. Well, nor should you. And, you know, it's not like you're a shy, retiring violent. We'll get you on lots of these as well. And you'll be on panels, I'm sure, talking, you know, about your business, but also on behalf of the industry, I'm sure.
And ultimately, it's about what we're focusing on here. It's about having the right team in place, because it really isn't all about me. You know, it's going to be about the leadership team moving this business forward.
Yeah. And it's very exciting times, isn't it? To have once they're all in place, I think that's probably by September they'll all be in place, so that would be you know, good to watch from there onwards. Just before we let you go, Mark, you released a survey this morning. It was about the LGBTQ plus honeymoon report, which of course you launched to celebrate 10 years of marriage equality. So I mean, you're known for, you know, bringing out your reports, aren't you? And they get great pickup in the nationals, and it's great because that kind of gets sort of, you know, aligned with these sort of trends in the sector, which is great. But this is a first for you. So why did you decide to do this one?
The first, and you know what? When I think back to my previous stint here, I was the one that introduced the LGBT plus experts within the sort of retail stores and the contact centers. And really, it's a space, because of our affinity towards honeymoon, it's a space that just felt natural for us to move into. So now coming back to the business again, can you believe it's a decade since we've had equal marriage? It now seems absurd that it wasn't.
I know, actually, when I read that in your release, I was surprised. So I was like, wow. So
look at how far we've come. But I'm so proud of the way this business values that sector and the way it approaches our LGBTQ plus sort of customers. And so when we sought to compile the report, there was just plenty of sort of data and stories and insight to be able to add.
Yeah. And just while you're here, just talk us about the key trends. I mean, one of the things I thought was interesting, that there are still major concerns by some people around certain destinations, but you know, they end up sort of wanting to go to certain destinations and kind of overlooking the fact that they're, you know, because they want to tick things off, but it's still a concern, isn't it? I mean, we have come a long way, but not every destination is quite as open as you would like.
Exactly. That is the fundamental question that needs to be asked at the start of any consultation with an LGBTQ plus sort of couple, and particularly honeymoon couple, because on your honeymoon, you really want to be yourself.
Of course you do.
More than on any other trip. I'm obviously part of the community. I have a very sort of high tolerance level, and I tend not to let the destination's politics or cultural approach dictate where I go on my holiday.
Yeah.
It's personal to each and every client. Yeah. So that conversation needs to take place. And I think, particularly on social media, it can become really polarized. Almost, you can't go here, or you can go there. It's particular to each and every customer. So
right. It's about asking the question. It's about listening.
So that's exactly the conversation we would have with an agent. It's just, so if any agent is unsure about how to approach that inquiry, call up and we will guide you through that process.
Okay. I mean, that's really helpful, because I think there is some nervousness still, as you say, it's been 10 years, but still people aren't quite sure. So you've got experts at the end of your phone lines that can help them and guide them through that kind of inquiry, which is great to know. All right, Mark, listen, I'm so excited for you. It's great that you've come on here today with, you know, great new appointments. We're looking forward to meeting the new ones that we don't know so well. And obviously, you know, we'll get Sarah on here for an interview when she's had a chance to start in her new role, because she'll be so well known by everyone, and it's great that you've got her. Well done.
I'm sure she will relish the opportunity.
Oh God! Oh, yeah, exactly. Come on, she's not going to turn that down. All right. Well, listen, all the very best. Thank you for your time, and we'll speak to you again, hopefully in a few months' time when they're all in place and we can catch up again.
We'd love to. Thanks, Lucy.
All right, Mark. Thank you.